So this is going to be the unboxing of the Voxelab Proxima resin 3D printer. I've just recently started resin printing. I started with the Lego Mars 2 Pro. Absolutely lovely machine, but price range was quite high. So in the end I couldn't really justify having that machine. So I had to return it, and I ended up buying a Lego Mars Pro, the Pro version of the 2. Again, I was very impressed with the print quality, but once you go to the 2 Pro and then you go back to the Pro, the build plate looks quite tiny actually. So I was still missing the bigger build plate that you get with the 2 Pro. And suddenly Voxelab came on my radar. When I started my investigation, I saw, oh, they actually do 2 printers. One is called the Proxima, which is their full version basically, with the bigger build plate. And there's another one which I have forgotten the name of. I'll probably edit it into the video once I have a look at it. So between both of them I decided to try out the Proxima, which is the bigger version, as I said. And let's start with the unboxing. So first thing you see on the top is a sticker saying thank you for purchasing your Voxelab 3D printer. It has their after sales service email address. I can see there's a small USB stick, which is a good addition, so that's where you put your prints. I've read that online as well, that they only send you one filter to filter the resin out of the vat back into a bottle if you're not using it for a while. So that's included in there. And there's a leaflet, so booklet from them, and also some after sales information, all nicely packaged, so a good addition. Then you take the cap out. I'll just show you. It is quite nicely and compactly packed basically. If you see the usual spatula, the plastic one to take prints off the FEP plate, and your standard metal one to remove the prints from your build plate actually. Then you've got your cable. Though sadly it's not a 3.1 which I need for the UK, so let's see if they've got an adapter in there or not. Otherwise I'll have to use one of my other ones. The complimentary hex toolkit with some screws, which is always a good addition. Another cable, but this time it's the UK cable, so they're literally providing you with both the European and the UK cables, so that's a 2-in-1. Oh, well done. Then one pair of gloves. They're a bit stingy on these things, but well, if you're into 3D printing you will probably have accumulated most of these things at home anyways. You've got your power brick, which is very similar to the way the Lego Mars power bricks work, so hopefully that should be similar. Now that I've emptied the top bits, let's see how this comes up. So that is where all the tools were. That is the top half of the case. Now if you look inside, the printer is nicely packaged. Probably put it on the floor. bottom. And there you go, that's your printer. Just wanted to make sure there's nothing else. And the box can be put aside. I like to keep my boxes just safety reasons, and also in case there's a problem with the printer and I need to return it. Now there's some tape on the plastic packaging. Again, I know some people are tempted to just rip everything off to get to the goods, but sadly I'm a bit anal when it comes to packaging. I like to remove everything. That's quite thick plastic. Which can be moved aside, and there you go. So that is your Voxelab Proxima resin 3D printer design. To be honest, all the designs of these resin printers are very similar to each other. I've looked at the Creality ones, the Elegoo ones, now Voxel, so they've got a very similar sort of design with the front LCD metal body. On the back you can see where the power goes in, the on-off switch is there. In this particular model you've got the USB stick on the side. With the Elegoo, the USB stick is in the front. I've had a lot of people, some of them like it that way, some of them don't, but personally I don't have any preferences. I don't mind if it's actually if it's in the front. I tend to feel like it can easily be knocked off. So if your printer is sitting on the table and suddenly someone walks by, they can knock it out, whereas if it's on the side, I feel it's more safe. But then again, everyone has their opinion about that. Now let's take, well, it's been taped quite well, so let's get these tapes off. Bear with me. So you can say this is my Christmas present to myself. Anyway, that's what Christmas should be. Okay, so the tape has now come off, and we can remove the case. So again, the case is in one piece. The case is in one piece as well. I've noticed that Anycubic, I think, do it in 4 pieces, and you have to sort of put it together, which is not a design I like. To be honest, I would prefer it in one piece. Again, a lot of tape on all the parts, as you can see. This back, the back part is also covered with tape. You can feel the pleasure of peeling tape off. Now, you can actually, so that was to protect the case, and then you've got the build plate literally stuck in there. That can go on the side. So the build plate is actually quite nice. Again, similar to Elegoo, made out of aluminium. I like the design. It's got a surface where it actually wouldn't let the resin sit on it, and it will just literally fall off, which is good. The 2 screws to adjust the build plate level, and it looks like it's sandblasted because it's got a nice surface to it, but again that's something we'll test when we start doing our prints basically. I will wipe them down with isopropyl alcohol, of course, before I start my first print, in case you're worried about all the stuff sticking on there. Okay, so with the resin mat, so as you can see, I'll show you. So as you can see, you've got the 2 screws to hold the the plate, the resin vat in place, and with the resin vat it's actually got 2 notches that fit in these basically in these things, and this literally slides in. You fill it to the max. It has a max level actually. It is made out of metal, which is nice. Just need to adjust the camera so I can actually see if I'm actually showing you anything. So yes, so as I said, that's the resin vat with the 2 notches that will fit in these screws when you are ready to print. Again, the FEB plate is covered with plastic that will come off once we start printing. All looking nice. So the LCD seems to have a tape that I can see. I'm not sure if that's just to package it or whether that can be removed. I will have to have a look at that in a sec. Now it feels like that tape's actually part of the bed, so I will not take that tape off. So that is basically your the unboxing of the Voxelab resin printer, the Proxima. And quite nice. It has the same build volume when it comes to the X and Y axis to the Mars 2 Pro. The only difference is its Z-axis is a bit, I think it's like 5mm shorter than the Mars Pro, but I'm literally buying this as an alternative to the Mars 2 Pro. So once I do some test prints, I can then compare it to what I got from the other printer, and I can update you on how that's going. One of the things I tend to do before I start using any of my resin printers is I have these screen protectors that I got off Amazon quite cheap. They are for 7-inch tablets normally. So what I've been doing is, for both the Mars Pro and the Mars 2 Pro, is I cut them to size and put them on top of the LCD for the 3D printer. Because I have seen a lot of videos where people have had leakages in their vats, which have basically put leaked resin onto the LCD, which then got cured and got stuck there. You can sort of do a small surgery using a sharp blade and scrape it off, but I don't want to really get into that sort of situation, and I've read on a lot of forums that people are using these flexible screen protectors for tablets or phones, and then just basically placing them on top of this. As far as I'm concerned, I've used it on 2 of the printers that I previously mentioned, and I've not had a single issue with any of the prints I got from them. Just as an example, this is one of the models that I printed on the Lego Mars Pro. Let's see if I can zoom in. Yeah, so as you can see, it's quite detailed. So this was printed on the Lego Mars 2 Pro, and as you can see, came out quite nicely. And I printed this while I had the lens protector on, or the the sheet on top of the LCD, and it printed quite well. So I have full trust in those precautions. So once I've done my first print, I will come back and show you how it looks like. I'm going to do some basic setup. The motor is quite, well, louder than the Lego Mars. Another thing I've noticed is the fan only runs when the LCD is actually running, whereas with the Lego Mars printers, as soon as you turn them on, the fan starts running basically. So that's another difference. This one I normally have to cut it to size, which is what I'm looking at right now, to get an idea. How much I need to cut. Get a ruler. So I have a metal ruler now, so I can always use a sharp edge tool to make your cut so it doesn't curl up. Here, let's just make sure it fits. Slightly bigger, but I don't think that's a problem. Let's get the screen clean. So it looks clean. I'm just cleaning it with some isopropyl alcohol as well. Just being a bit anal when it comes to making sure that the surface is clean. If you have it changed. On screen. Very similar exercise. Just want to make sure there's no bubbles in there. Any bubbles will of course might impact your printing performance. Again, as I said, I've read this before I actually got my first printer and I was doing my research. A lot of people had mentioned that this is what they do to protect the LCD screens from getting damaged by any leakage. And I have tried it on my other printers and it has worked for me. That's why I have no objection to recommending it. But as I say, everyone to their own. So if you don't feel comfortable doing it, there are other techniques as well that people are using. You can always follow them. And if they work for you, let me know, and then you never know, I might have to try one of those. So that's done. Okay, I'm just wiping it with isopropyl alcohol, making sure it's all clean. Might not be your method of use. So it's got quite a nice slot at the back, so you can't push the tray too far back. I think I was having the issue with Lego Mars where the slot is not that deep, or the groove where the plate fits is not very deep, so when you start pushing it backwards you sort of have to feel for that little bit of a bump, whereas this one you can't really push it too far back once you have reached the desired size. So now, one main thing I forgot was leveling the bed, so I will have to remove the face beam. These screws are quite tight, I think. Let's take that off, put it on a new piece of plastic. So now I will first of all level the bed, for which I can probably see if I can use their after sales slightly bigger than what I needed. So we have a piece of paper, just have to slice a bit off it. Amazing. So that will be the right side. Using my still wet isopropyl alcohol wipe to clean So one thing this one and the Lego Mars have in common is once you put this in, it doesn't actually sit straight, completely straight. You sort of have to make sure it's aligned. You tighten it there, so that's tight. I just need to loosen these screws before I level the bed. So again, that's where your hex keys come in handy. Again, if you look at the various tutorials, some of them will say loosen this first, then loosen that. But again, so when you're leveling, when you initially press it to go down, don't be, as long as these two are unscrewed or loosened, the bed has some movement, so it won't really go straight into your LCD and break it. But if these were tight and then you did it, there are chances that it will actually break your LCD screen, so be careful when you're doing that. So once you've done that, you can put the piece of paper there, and we go in Tools. I'm not sure if you can see it, but I'll say it loud so you know. And then you go in Manual, and then there's a Home button that you press, and then you let it home. So once it's gone down, just make sure it is aligned properly, and then you have to sort of push the plate downwards while you tighten the screws, and again push the plate down while you tighten the other screw. And now I can sort of, I'm just always scared that not will strip them if I do too hard. So now I've tightened both screws, and as you can see, the paper is too tight and it's not coming out. So now we'll have to go and adjust. There are three options: 0.1 millimeter, 1 millimeter, 10 millimeter. So I will select the 0.1 millimeter, press up, and then see how loose it is. So as long as I get a little bit of a resistance, that's fine. So I think this, yeah, I'm getting a little bit of resistance. And back. And then there's a button that says set Z to 0, which I will do now. It will say confirm. You confirm it, and now your bed is leveled. So now you need to bring the bed back up. So press it a few times for the above. I've set it to 10 millimeter now, because if I left it at 0.1 millimeter and started pressing up, it would take ages. Now I can put the bed back in. So tight enough. A little bit more. Now I'll fill the vat with some resin, and probably put a model on my USB stick, plug it in, and start the first print. Then we can see how it goes. So before I start the print, I cannot put this into perspective enough that this is very important that you protect yourself, because you are dealing with resin which, even if it says that it's natural or plant made, it's still quite harmful. So you have to wear your gloves, At the moment I am using the Anycubic clear resin. Shake them before you use them. Some people even suggest on the forums that it's better to warm up your resin or warm up the printer or the vat if you're having adhesion problems, which of course is my first print, so I'll see how it goes. The room's quite warm right now, so even though it's December, so we can start with that. The reason I'm using the clear one resin, I'll explain in a second. So let's start by pouring the resin in. Just make sure you don't go above the max point. Always seal them properly. Keep them away from pets or children, of course. One of the things I've been doing with the clear resin is using different dyes in the resin. So you can use any UV resin dye in your resins to change their colors, and you can come up with a lot of different variants. So that's another fun thing to do. Of course, before I print I need to mix the resin. So that plastic spatula that you saw me unbox earlier, I'm going to use that one. Sort of move the resin around so that the dye I just added gets equally distributed. You can always go back and move your build plate a bit higher. And before you ask, yes, I've done this before and I have had successful prints. I haven't used the white colorant though, so that will be interesting to see. Though when I was basically preparing this particular STL file to print, I did select grey resin settings, because even though I'm using clear resin, I knew I was going to be adding color into it, so that would probably change the consistency of the resin. So the amount of UV light that you need to cure it would probably be a bit higher, but we will see, and I'll show you the results. Even if I fail, I will definitely be sharing those with you. Because I said it's my first experience with this particular printer. Anyone resin printing will probably have one or few of these lying around to clean their tools. It's got isopropyl alcohol, so whenever I'm doing that I will do that. So let's start printing. So go back, go in print, find the file, press play. So settings are very similar to the Ligumar, so I think it runs on G2 box as well, so I think the settings are normally very similar. Noise, I've just noticed, it's louder than my Ligumars by a lot, but because that's just the Z-axis movement, and once it starts printing I don't expect it to So now that it's started curing, I will put, again I just left this off because I was showing you. Now that it's printing, I'm just going to cover it. I like the way the covers has been designed actually, it's quite nice. If that plastic is bothering you, I might remove it or I might not. Depends on how I find this printer. But for the time being, we can leave it on its own, and hopefully it is a long print that I've started. It did say it will take 9 hours, so hopefully by the time I wake up in the morning I should have something on the build plate that is hopefully worthy of looking at.